G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice stories. Now if you love a good relationship advice story, I want you to like the video, comment on the video how much you like the relationship advice stories, subscribe and hit that bell notification, and with that said I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie. Let's get right into today's bloody good episode. Thanks. Posted by user OKBullfrog5830, titled, Am I the asshole for demanding my house guest pay me for what she drank? I, 29 female, was asked by a friend, 27 female, that I went to university with if she could stay for a few days at my place on her vacation. She came a couple days ago and also brought her sister, 31 female, which was fine with me. Her sister declined going out to dinner with us and wanted to stay in. That was fine, and we left and went to eat. Well, turns out her sister is a recovering alcoholic and wasn't coping that well being in a different place. We come home a few hours later, and I found out that she got drunk and raided my liquor cabinet for what she could find. She ended up drinking my very expensive gin, $300 USD, that was given to me by my dad. It's not something that I would have ever offered guests. When she woke up the next morning, I told her that she needed to pay me for it. I didn't even open it. She started freaking out, saying that it was a mistake and that she couldn't afford the rest of her trip if that's what it really costs. I told her that she technically stole it from me and that she needed to pay me for it. My friend from uni says that her sister is struggling in recovery, but they really can't afford to compensate me without it ruining their trip. I asked them to leave, and they were both very upset about it. While I do understand that it was a moment of weakness, I still think she needs to pay me for it. If she broke it by accident, that would be a different story. Am I the asshole for wanting her to give me the money for it? In the comments, Oskman7 says, Info, did she take a few glasses, or did she drink a whole bottle of gin? Edit, the friend's sister is definitely an asshole in this situation. Addiction is a cruel monster, but it doesn't excuse shitty behavior. However, the real asshole here is OP's friend. Why would she leave a recovering alcoholic on her own like that? Did she not notice the distress that her sister was in from being in a new place? OP's friend would make the worst Alcoholics Anonymous sponsor. She is also a shitty sister, not the asshole. OP replies, It was empty when we came back. It was a large size, but she spilt what she didn't drink, I'm assuming. Wise Woman 707 says, Not the asshole. Did your friend warn you about the drama she was bringing into your doorstep with a struggling, recovering alcoholic? Not your problem that paying for the alcohol that she stole is expensive, or that paying for it, in other words, being responsible for her actions, would ruin their trip. Good for you for kicking them out and not tolerating this outrageous behavior. She needs to be held accountable for her choices, especially if she ever hopes to recover. And OP replies, No, she didn't mention it at all. It was high up in my kitchen with my spices. It wasn't in view. Not the asshole. They're prioritizing not ruining their trip over paying back the expensive item I stole from a generous host. Not cool. She needs to suck it up, ruin her trip, and account for her actions. Accountability is a huge part of addiction recovery. This exactly. Why is blame always assigned to the person who was wronged, trying to make it right? Oh no, we did something bad to you, and if you don't let us get away with it, you're going to ruin everything! Not the asshole. I feel badly for you, as I suspect the bottle of gin had sentimental value as well. That cannot be replaced. Your guests should have told you in advance that the sister is in recovery, so you could have prepped, i.e., locking your liquor or storing it elsewhere. Furthermore, addiction is a terrible thing, but it isn't an excuse for stealing. If making reparations ruins their vacation, then that is the consequence. Quote, No, she didn't mention it at all. It was high up in my kitchen with my spices. It wasn't in view. Not the asshole. This woman stayed behind, and as soon as you were gone, went looking for alcohol to fuel her bender. She planned this. If the trip is stressing her out so much, she drank most of a large bottle of gin on her own and got so drunk that she spilled the rest. The trip needs to be over. And your friend is the asshole too for not at least warning you about this. My take on this is you don't just punch someone in the face willingly and then expect them to forgive you and be like, oh, it's a mistake. I've got an addiction to punching people in the face. I can't control myself. And if you give me consequences for my actions, it's gonna ruin my day. Like, no, go to hell. Pay me my money back. You know that was a gin that you weren't supposed to touch. Get out of my house. I don't care if your holiday is ruined. Screw you. Not the asshole, OP. And now, onto the update. Thanks everyone for making me not seem like a monster. I requested the money, and her sister sent me an e-transfer. We weren't super close, but more met up from time to time. It wasn't a friendship that I'm necessarily devastated over this happening. In the comments, Toria Lyons says, she totally knew how expensive the gym was likely to be too. All the alcoholics I've ever met know a lot about alcohol. I know that this is a serious problem, but I'm also picturing that episode of Black Books where they accidentally drink the Pope's expensive wine and then drunkenly try and brew their own replacement. They'd all laugh at me if they knew what I was trying to do, to create a new strain of super wine in half an hour with a fraction of nature's resources and a fool for an assistant. Bernard Black, he's mad, they'd say. He's insane. He's dangerous. Well, I'll show them. I'll show them all. That's the inner machinations of the alcoholic sister in this instance. I can't afford to replace the item I stole. Cool. Calls police? Thieves hate this one cool trick. People often seem to forget that you can, and sometimes should, just let the cops sort it out, especially when others are being quite unreasonable and a wake-up call is needed. Don't ask if you're an asshole, just call the non-emergency line and report a non-violent theft. The question is, will the cops do something, or is their excuse that it's a civil matter? Our next post is by user FreshReward8901, titled, I'm about to leak a video of my stepdad and I'm not guilty. My mum has recently got back with her abusive partner. She won't listen to anything anyone says, including her kids, family, and friends. And when we try to say something, she acts like we are in the wrong. They've gotten back together 5 times, and I'm so sick of it, having to listen to the constant arguing and abuse. Today, I just got recommended a bunch of videos I forgot I had. It's of my stepdad abusing my mum, his son, and being ableist to my younger sister, as well as him admitting to being on drugs and DUI. It's a compilation of many events ending up being over an hour's worth of videos that I had taken before I gave up on trying to get my mum to see reason. While the police and my mother won't listen to me, I'm sure his family and workplace would love to hear all about this. Especially when he's been claiming to be clean for 2 years, cough cough. I know my mother is going to hate me after this, but frankly, I don't care. If he hasn't done anything wrong, why does this video change any of that? Thanks for listening, Reddit. Make sure to keep his downfall in your prayers. In the comments, Calgary Calico says, make backup copies of the videos and hide whatever they're on. You want as many as possible. Put them on flash drives, external hard drives, whatever you got. It's always good to have backups. Have the police seen the videos? If not, take one of your copies into a police station and explain the situation. If you have actual proof, they may be able to do something about it. And be careful. He is physically abusive, on hard drugs, and drinks at the same time. He is completely unpredictable and could try to seriously hurt you if he thinks he'll lose everything because of you. It would be your fault in his mind that his life is effectively over. Yeah, just what all these other people said, OP. Tread extremely carefully because people on drugs that are abusive and violent like this will take you out to the woods and just end you. Or they'll just end you in their own house. They don't really care when they're on drugs. It's not like their brain is working correctly. I know you're a teenager and you may not be completely thinking this entire situation through, but you may just be putting yourself in more danger than is worth currently. And now, onto the update. So, 212 days ago, I made a Reddit post about posting videos of my stepdad admitting to abuse, among other things. I'm going to be honest, and promptly forgot I posted it. I don't use Reddit. A bunch of people asked for updates, so here's your update. Nearly a year later. Honorary warning for abuse. Sorry it gets a bit dark. Not a bad ending though, more of a hopeful one. I sent the video to his family a week after that post because I posted that as we were in the process of moving in with him. Stupid timing, I know, because I couldn't find a reliable way to contact his work. It all went south, as many of you predicted. His family did not give a single shit. Me and my stepfather ended up getting into physical fights every other day. At least I can say for someone double my weight, I was holding my ground pretty well. He started drinking a lot more, and I started getting a lot more aggressive with him, practically goading him so he would leave my siblings alone. I kept this up for a good while before I woke up to my mum being choked by him. I ran out to try and stop him, but I just blanked. I couldn't think on how to stop him. I was just panicking. He ended up stopping by himself, but I'm still afraid of what would have happened if he didn't. I stopped provoking him then. I just left him alone and only interrupted if I believed someone was actively endangered. We couldn't afford to move out and were afraid that he could take our stuff from us if we did legally and basically hold us there because we couldn't live otherwise. 2 weeks ago, we got into contact with a distant aunt of mine. She runs crisis homes for victims of domestic abuse and community help-centered places. We didn't know any of that at first, only that she knew people and might know a lawyer willing to help. She ended up offering to help us leave and get to one of her crisis homes and set us up with a lawyer. I'm so grateful for her. Me and my mum usually despise being given charity, but I don't know how much further this would have gotten if we didn't take it. Soon we leave, and we are never going back. I still don't know if he'll face consequences for how he has ruined us, or if we'll even get out unnoticed, but I'm happy and hopeful for the first time in a while. If you have any questions, or I missed something, please ask. I want to give people information on how to get out, even if it's just learning from my mistakes. Sorry if this is formatted weird. I had to repost as I missed a chunk. In the comments, the hat on the cat says, "I'm so sorry you went through that, and so glad you escaped. You sound like a very brave young person. Your younger siblings are lucky to have you. I'm glad that you're leaving, but you are far kinder than I would be. No way I'd leave him physically intact. You're so brave for protecting your family. You said in your last post that your mum went back 5 times before. Are you sure she won't go back this time? What makes now different?" OP says, "Before this, it wasn't as physically aggressive, and the terms of us staying at the crisis home is we aren't allowed to be in contact with him because we will be staying with other people escaping domestic abuse. And I don't think that my mum is heartless enough to subject the other women to him. I'm hoping these stakes are high enough that she can get her shit together." This is one of those situations where you love someone, but you don't like them. OP will probably never forgive his or her mum for putting them, their siblings, and even herself back into that situation. Especially because she got back with him so many times. I assume that I'm older than OP, but even with those extra years and some therapy under my belt, I still sometimes resent my mum for getting back with my shitty father, and she only did it once. It's so hard not to blame her for my issues caused by my father. If she had just stayed away, I wouldn't be XYZ, which might hold true for some things, but it's not fair to put that on her. I very much resent my mother for not standing up to her husband when he was emotionally and mentally abusive. She fully acknowledged that he was and sent me to quote-unquote therapy, read an extremely religious counselor so that I would learn how to handle it. I am extremely low contact with her now and have a fair amount of CPTSD from my childhood. I resent her so deeply now. God, OP is too young to have to shoulder all of this. Stepfather is obviously a piece of shit, but OP's mum failed him too. Yes, she was abused, but she allowed her children to be tormented by that monster. Leaking those videos is such a teenage move though. I'm not criticizing OP, but putting yourself and your mother in more danger while you are halfway through moving in with your abuser is just wild. It took a really good therapist spelling it out for me to realize making myself the target was unhelpful and potentially harmful to the people that I wanted to protect. Even after that, it's such an ingrained behavior that I have trouble not acting as the family lightning rod. I wish I didn't see myself in this post as much as I do. I hope his mum doesn't get back with his shithead sperm donor and they can begin to heal. Our next post is by user Mousy Shallon, titled, "My dad is pretending that I'm not getting married." So my dad has always been a very show-off person. Announcements about grades, telling everyone how great his daughters are doing, telling off my sister for having a job that he can't show off. When he divorced from my mum, he was a good parent for a while, and then he met Eva. Eva is way younger, has had a lot of work done, and used to send him flirty messages when he was still married. They got married very early in the relationship because they've known each other ages. She told him not to text us too much because we are adults. She checks his phone all the time. She forbade him from seeing us Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day because he needed to be with his new family. And it would have been disrespectful to her for him to see his ex-wife, and she's overall been an absolute nightmare. And he follows everything she tells him to do. Now I'm getting married and told my dad that he's invited, but she's not. I've met the woman once, and I don't like her. Plus, I know my father isn't a great person, and he'd be making jabs at my mum about being older than Eva, etc. To make it fair, my mum's boyfriend is also not invited, although he's a sweetheart. My dad's answer to my invite has been to pretend that nothing is happening. I sent him a save the date, and he sent me a thumbs up emoji. He hasn't asked me one question about the wedding, not even the venue, even though he told me shortly before meeting Eva that he was looking forward to me and my sister getting married and how excited he was. Myself and my fiancé are different religions and cultures, so everyone's had a lot of questions about how we are handling that. Turns out he hasn't told Eva that I'm getting married, and he hasn't told anyone else, so he's just planning to say that he has a work trip and come to the wedding. I don't actually think he's going to show up. I think he'll say that he's going to, and then not show at the last minute, but my sister thinks that he'll show up with her and make a whole scene, because he told her Eva has just as much right to be there as your mum. What? Anyone else dealt with something similar? Do I need a backup to walk me down the aisle? In the comments, Sailor Spyro says, "I just want to point out that your dad is in an abusive relationship. His new wife is cutting him off from his family, his support system, so she can have more control over him. He probably won't be allowed to go to the wedding because she's not invited, and probably wouldn't have been allowed to even if she was. Your dad is an ass all on his own, but I think it's important to recognize that he is still capable of being abused, and that it's happening." OP says, "Yes, they both suck. He has always been a cheater. At least 3 other women during the span of 10 years that we have evidence of. And I think, no evidence, he was cheating on my mum with her, so that's why she's constantly monitoring his phone and not allowing him to leave the house. We told him not to marry her and that her behavior is very concerning, but he seems very blind. It sounds like he wants to come and he knows the only way him coming without his wife is possible if he lies about it. He risks getting quote-unquote caught to be able to go, which speaks volumes about their relationship. But if she checks his phone, you're causing further risk of her finding out if you keep messaging him about the wedding. Stick to phone calls so there is no record. I hope he can make it and there's no drama." OP replies, "I rang him the first time to tell him that I was getting married, and then sent him the save the date the second time, asking if he was coming. I didn't know that he hadn't told her at the time. I've no idea why the wife wouldn't let him go to his daughter's wedding if she's as amazing as he says." On why his mum's boyfriend isn't invited, OP says, "Far more drama if I include him and exclude Eva. It is not worth the headache. He will for sure not show up if I invite my mum's boyfriend and not his wife. My mum understands that even though my dad is not the best dad ever, I still want him there. They haven't been together that long, so she's okay with her boyfriend staying at home. Plus, then he can stay with the dogs and she doesn't have to worry about getting a dog sitter. Most of the family is going as well, so there's nobody to look after them." 30 Ninjas in my bag says, "Communicate and ask him if he is coming to the wedding. Tell him that if he turns up with Eva, they will be removed. Always have backups when it comes to flaky parents. It's your wedding, and his wife has no right to be anywhere near your wedding." OP replies, "I've asked him twice, and he said, of course, but then told my sister that he hasn't told his wife I'm getting married and that he'll lie to his wife and tell her he's going away for work. I feel like he's either going to chicken out and not come or tell her she can go with him. I mean, it's clear that he's lying to his wife so that he can go. I would hire security because obviously you know your dad better than the internet does, but sounds like he's putting his relationship at risk by going, which means he's in a horrendous relationship if he has to lie to go to his own daughter's wedding, but that's another Reddit post. Best of luck. 1. Invite mum's boyfriend. Good behavior is to be rewarded. 2. Ask mum to walk you down the aisle. If you feel like it, and if he shows without Eva, you can play a father-daughter dance. 3. Hire security. If not for the church, then for the reception. Give them Eva's photo and your dad's. Label them as dad can come in if not accompanied by Eva. If Eva arrives, they both get escorted out. OP replies, I have number 3 covered, but we'd know before the reception because the only flight arrives the night before, so we would know by then. Yeah, sticky situation all around. I would advise that dad to get the hell out of that relationship as soon as possible because, it's karma for him being such a cheater all the time that he ends up with an affair partner that is constantly monitoring him. That is very much karma. But at the same time, it's not okay to stay with someone that is abusing you like that. At the end of the day, it's his life and his choice if he wants to stick with this woman because she is so amazing, as he has pointed out in the past. But your partner not allowing you to go to your child's wedding, that is truly insane. I really do wish the dad gets out and makes his life better for himself, but there's a lot of people that get too comfortable in situations like this. Very weird. And now, onto the update. So it turns out my dad ended up telling Eva about my wedding and telling her that she was invited to the wedding to avoid problems. She got herself a dress and booked a hotel, etc. My dad tried to convince me to invite her, but his biggest selling point was that he thought that it would be an amazing time to introduce Eva to my mum and my mum's whole family. Why he would think my mum would want to meet this woman is beyond me, and that she would feel excluded otherwise. He always rubs in our faces his new family, even calling it his new family. Keeps cancelling every dinner that he sets up with my sister due to some emergency involving Eva, or tells us to call Eva Mum. Both me and my sister are way beyond the point of calling some random mum since we both moved out, and he's being ridiculous. He called me again and again, trying to convince me, and I said no, explaining that I knew the only reason he wanted to bring his wife to the wedding was to upset mum, and that I wasn't going to let the two of them do that. He makes jabs at my mum every time he's around her about how great his new wife is. I thought the whole thing was over until I sent him some information about the wedding, and I guess he started feeling guilty and told us that he booked the flight for Eva as well, and he booked himself on the same flight as my mum. Changed his whole flight plans just so that he could be on the flight with her, so that my mum and Eva could still meet. AKA, he could still rub his new wife in her face and try and screw with my mum's head by putting her down and making comparisons. And then Eva would just go off and shop while he was at the ceremony. I'm not sure if this was true, or if he was going to try and bring her to the wedding and hope she didn't get kicked out. I'm trying to convince my mum to change her flight so he can't get inside her head 12 hours before the wedding. I don't know if I should uninvite him. In the comments, Sisu143 says, "So why is it important to you that this man is at your wedding? It's giving you nothing but anxiety. Do you dislike your mum this much to allow this?" Oh my god, yes. What has your mum done to you that you'd facilitate hurting her? Why does he know so many details of your mum's travel plans? OP replies, "She is the main reason that I haven't uninvited him yet. She keeps saying that I need to have a relationship with him and be more understanding. He knows because he asked, and we figured he was trying to avoid being on the same flight as her. I'm so sorry. This should not be a part of your wedding memories. I would suggest mentioning to your father that he is spoiling your wedding. He is completely unaware of anything but himself. You may need to adjust to the reality and leave him behind." In your shoes, I'd invite mother's boyfriend, change their flights, include mum in hair and makeup, and make sure she turns out looking $1 million. If he's hell-bent on bringing Eva and you're not inclined to ditch the pair of them, the least you can do for mum is to make 100% sure that she's got backup, her boyfriend, and looks fabulous enough to stick it in their eye. And make sure that mum features prominently in your speech. Why the flying fa did you invite him to begin with? Want a wrecked wedding? Let him come. He'll make your mum feel like shit, make a scene to get his trophy toy in the doors, remind you 1,000,000 times that you're nothing but the old family, not his new, better one, and plastic, fantastic bimbo will probably be about as pleasant as him. Dad, you're out, your Barbie doll is out, enjoy your new family. I'll make as much room for you as you have done for me. Security will absolutely guide you to Mount F off if you do try showing up. And now onto the final update. The wedding has happened. It just took a bit of time to update because it's my life and it all went south and was too raw to try and write it in a coherent way. It still probably won't be super coherent. I asked him to change his flight because he had specifically asked me what flight my mum was on so he could avoid her, as he had said. And my mum was flying with my grandpa, so it would have been quite hard to change their flights to avoid him. My dad told me that he'd changed flights and that he'd invent some lie to tell Eva. He also said that I was a horrible person for not believing him when he told me that he had not booked the flight out of spite. But he did tell my mum that he booked the flight on purpose so that she could meet his new wife. And what reason would there be for wanting them to meet other than to be an asshole? I thought the whole thing was resolved, and my mum was really adamant that she wanted my dad to be there because I don't have a great relationship with him, and she knew that it would have meant the end of the relationship if I uninvited him. Fast forward to 2 days after the conversation, my dad rebooked his flight and sent me a message to say that he had changed flights. And then that evening he calls me. I answered the phone and I could hear someone screaming down the phone. It turns out that Eva got her hands on my dad's phone, read the messages where I asked him to reschedule the flight, and she rang me shouting down the phone that I am unhinged, I am a horrible person, I am effed in the head. She said that I am so weird because I'm in my 30s and I still talk to my parents. This one was really weird because am I meant to stop at a certain age? And that I'm jealous of the fact that my dad has a new life. I was very calm and said that I'm sorry that she's upset, that the issues around the wedding aren't really related to her directly, and that my dad was trying to upset my mum. I also said that my mum's partner is not coming either, so it wouldn't be fair to have her there. She started shouting that my mum was a fat old cow, and I lost it. I absolutely lost it. In this whole thing, my mum has said nothing bad about Eva. I told her that I never had any issue with her until now, but that she's a crazy bear who is super controlling and that I was glad that I never invited her. Then I hung up because, by that stage, it had been 2 minutes of her shouting at me, and I didn't feel like there was any point in talking any longer. The whole time this was going on, my dad was in the background saying feebly, "Oh no, don't be mad at her," while she was shouting down the phone at me. Anyway, next day, my dad calls me and said that Eva was upset because he didn't tell her about changing the flights and that I was awful for responding to her like that. He also said, "Do you really think this is my fault?" And I said yes. And he said, "Do you really refuse to take any responsibility? None of this would have happened if you had invited her like I asked you to." And I said, does he actually think he has any say in my wedding when he didn't even ask me what type of ceremony I had? Never asked to see my dress or get involved in any way, monetarily or otherwise? He asked me if he was still invited, and I said, obviously not. He then told me to be careful what I wrote in my messages to him because she was monitoring his phone. And I said that I'm not speaking to him again, so that won't be a problem. The wedding was good. My mum walked me down the aisle, and there was nobody there to cause drama, so in the end, it all worked out for the best. The whole thing was just a lot more dramatic than I originally thought it would be. We thought he might end up not coming because he was too entangled in his lies, but for sure did not expect the call that I got. And it was very close to the wedding when all the drama happened. In the comments, Tack Wombat says, Dad was a horrible partner to OP's mother, and now he's stuck with a horrible partner, and his children want nothing to do with him. He made that bed, and he should enjoy lying in it. Has to tell his daughter to be careful what she texts because he's being monitored. Doesn't think that that's a problem? He is definitely in an abusive relationship. No one can help him unless he wants to be helped, and he sounds like he doesn't want help. I can see why OP wouldn't want any part of this situation. Because if he decides to get help, he will admit that he threw away his whole family for a new hellish family, and he is too proud for that. Dad is a dumbass, and he's just finally reaping what he sowed his entire life. I'm just upset that OP's mum kept trying to convince OP to invite the dad after all the stuff that he did because of new wife. I would have burned that bridge and left him to fend for himself long ago. So after a lifetime of cheating, the dad gets stuck with a paranoid woman who monitors himself 24/7. Sounds like karma to me. The petty side of me would keep texting him being like, dinner with your mistress was good last night. I like her more than your wife. Things like that for funsies, knowing that she's reading them. Have you heard about the great news about Mum? It's amazing! Best to not tell your wife about this. If she's still monitoring you, please call me from work at the usual time. I just wanted to say thank you for putting aside your differences and meeting Mum, Mum's boyfriend, and me for dinner. It reminded me of the good old days. It felt like we were a family again. Love you lots. P.S. I'll remember to keep the pictures off of social media so that Eva doesn't get upset. Love heart emoji face. It also sounds like OP's dad is an abuser himself, at least emotionally. At the very least, he's an enabler of his new wife. He is not at all innocent. I see the comments pointing out her dad is in an abusive relationship, and that may be true, but it's not OP's job to save him, and at a certain point, you have to walk away for your own sake. I very much agree with that sentiment. I do think that it's unhealthy for OP to continue being around him and his bullshit. I think he's made it more than obvious that he doesn't care what impact he has on her life and her immediate family's life, because he's going along with the monitoring and then making that OP's fault. Like, how dare you yell back at my abusive, controlling wife when she's yelling at you down the phone? Do you know how that makes us feel? It makes us feel inadequate, okay? We can't even yell at you without some ramifications. How dare you change the flight that your mum's on because I told her and you expressly that I was going there to attack and abuse that woman because I hate myself. Yeah, at some point you just have to cut contact with these people. He's made his bed and he's more than happy to lie in it. He is so heckin' comfy. I understand wanting to continue to maintain a relationship with your father, but when he doesn't care and he actively tries to sabotage your and your mum's life, it's time to cut the cord. It doesn't matter if you want a relationship. I think what's healthy for everyone is that you get rid of this person. It's not good to keep people like that around. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.